Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to November's Georgia Healthy Farmer Mindset meeting. We're very excited today to have Kyle Haney and Mason Dean with us from Georgia AgrAbility. Um, and we're just very excited to have them because this program, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary here in Georgia, is an amazing program. And I was privileged last week to join them in their 20th anniversary celebration um, over in Deering, Georgia, on a farm of one of their clients. And it was an amazing experience. I learned so much more than I thought I knew a lot about it, but I learned even more. And it was great to be out there and see, hands-on, in person, some of the different equipment and methods that they use to just support farmers with disabilities that, frankly, would otherwise probably keep them from being able to farm or continue farming. And so I just can't say how much I was inspired by being there and seeing this and hearing from some of the folks that this has impacted in a super positive way. Um, I will apologize in advance if you've noticed the dulcet tones of my baritone. I am fighting a pretty severe cold today, so if I go away for a minute, it's because there's some things I shouldn't share with you, as such as a coughing fit. But other than that, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to introduce to you, first of all, one of the folks, I believe in the first meeting after I became the director of the Georgia Agricultural Wellness Alliance a couple of years ago. My first meeting at UGA, Kyle Haney was in that meeting. And so I got to learn a little bit about what he did and what the work was that was going on there. But I've learned so much more. And so Kyle is a rural health manager at the University of Georgia and coordinates the AgrAbility and the farm boot camp programs. As a mechanical engineer, he has expertise in agricultural adaptive designs and fabrication. Kyle is also part of the Assistive Technology Innovation Lab at UGA, where he fabricates devices for individuals with disabilities across the lifespan. When not at work for UGA, you can usually find him on a tractor at his family farm. And also we have Mason Dean, who is the coordinator for AgrAbility in South Georgia and works out of the UGA Tifton campus in the engineering building. Mason has been a member of the AgrAbility Project since June of 2015. Before joining the AgrAbility Project, he worked for USDA Agricultural Research Services as a field research technician, where he assisted researchers in a variety of projects growing crops, monitoring watersheds, and maintaining a radio network of weather stations. Mason attended ABAC, where he completed a BS in rural studies focusing on rural economic development. And I am so pleased to have them. I think we may be having one of their clients join us today. And if so, I'm going to let Mason introduce that client soon. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle.
Yeah. Thanks for the welcome, John, and we're excited to be here and able to share more about AgrAbility. Unfortunately, it seems to be one of the best kept secrets of the university, but we are always here for farmers. We hope they never need us, but if they do, we want them to know about our program and the resources out there available for them to be able to continue farming. And so I'll go ahead and let Mason take it off because his one of his clients is going to be speaking earlier today, and so that way we can respect his time as much as possible on the webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. So yeah, I see Travis is with us in the participant list. So I'll introduce him in a few minutes, but I just want to, kind of overview of AgrAbility and our program here at the University of Georgia, and then we'll kind of talk about it nationally scale as well. AgrAbility here is housed at the University of Georgia under the College of Ag and Environmental Sciences, as well as the College of Family and Consumer Sciences. So we bring in expertise on both sides of that through IHD, which is the Institute on Human Development and Disability, under FACS, bringing in that expertise on disability, and then in the College of Ag with our background in agriculture and meshing those two up and how we serve our clients here in the state of Georgia. Since 2005, when the AgrAbility Project here in Georgia first began, we have served ranchers with disabilities and chronic health conditions, and then also impacted over 2,500 Georgia farm families that may have participated in other events, whether that's like a training or a workshop or something of that nature. And then we have recently, really over the past 8 to 9 years, seen a significant increase in the number of military veterans seeking services. So we have some other programs kind of wrapped around that, and Kyle's going to talk about them a little bit at the end of this presentation. So Kyle, you can move it on forward. So, looking at it from a national scale, you can see the states in yellow. There's about 20 states that have an active AgrAbility project that is funded. So it is a USDA funded program, and it has to be administered by a land grant university who has a nonprofit partner on their project as well. And so here in Georgia, we have our two land grant universities, University of Georgia and Fort Valley State. And so we have had the project here since 2005. All the states that are in the light gray color actually have a uh, partner style project. They may have had a project in the past that's not currently funded, but they're keeping services going through other organizations. And then the states in gray don't have any type of project at the moment. Okay. So this is our team at the University of Georgia. So Dr. Glenn Rains, going top to bottom, left to right. Dr. Rains is our uh, one of our program directors. He is in the College of Ag, and he is in the entomology department actually, but he's also the state's farm safety specialist. So he does a lot of work around farm safety, ag safety with youth, ag safety, um, programs, and he's also done a lot of work around EMS actually with extricating people after a farm accident. So he does trainings around that where they actually flip over tractors and flip them over on top of dummies more or less, and then have the EMS workers go out there and rescue that person from that incident. Dr. Zelinda Stoneman next to Dr. Rains, she is the associate, or she's the director of IHTD, and then Kyle and myself have already been introduced quite well, so thank you, John, for that. Hamida Janah, so she is our programs evaluation specialist. Whitney Ostrander, she is our dissemination and outreach coordinator. And then Stephanie Wallace, who is our event planner and really helps keep us all straight on what all we have going on. And then we have a board. So each program has to have a board of directors that we go to, and we have meetings usually twice a year with our board of directors, and that board is made up of people who are involved in the agricultural industry. So two of our board members are farmers that we've served in the past. One of those is Miss Ruby Davis. She is a produce farmer in Southwest Georgia. The other one is Itigo Felton, and he is a livestock producer over in Augusta area. And then he is also a veteran as well, so he brings in that veteran experience as we're looking at these new surge of veteran clients coming in. Chris Butts, he's the executive director of the Georgia Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association. Mary Brewerton, she is the executive director of the Pecan Growers Association. Taylor Seals, he is the executive director of the Georgia Cotton Commission. And then Mr. Tyron Spearman, who is the executive director of the Georgia Peanut Buyers Association. And then our nonprofit partner. So here in Georgia, we're quite fortunate to have the Shepherd Center, which is one of the leading brain and spinal cord injury rehabilitation hospitals here in the whole country. And they have been our nonprofit partner pretty much since the get-go. And what we do with them is they have staff who are on their therapist side of the hospital who actually work with us to provide trainings for occupational and physical therapy therapists throughout the state. So every couple of years, we'll host a training somewhere. We've done them here in Tifton, down in Savannah, up in Middle Georgia, just different areas throughout the state so we can hit as many people as possible. And those trainings basically take those occupational and physical therapists through what it is to be a farmer who will need treatment maybe for an injury or a health condition, and how these occupational and physical therapists can work with them. And it's a 2-day training. So the first day's in classroom, and we go over all sorts of topics like farm culture and then like functional outcomes, things of that nature. And then on the second day, we actually do out on farms all day. So we'll schedule 3 or 4 farms to visit during the day. And it's not like your typical farm tour, like you would think, oh, we just go see the farm and, you know, look at it. No, it's actually they get some hands-on opportunities where we can. Obviously, we're not going to have them in situations that could potentially be dangerous without them having the knowledge of how to work in those situations. But we definitely take the time to show them how that work does. That way they can really have a good understanding of what the physical needs are for all those different types of farming. So we may do like a produce farm, a cattle ranch, and something else on that during that day. So they get a really good idea of just what their client's operations may be and what those physical needs are for that person to be able to do their job when they return from an injury. And then the second part of that partnership is client referrals from the Shepherd Center to us. So a lot of our clients have been people who have experienced either a brain injury or a spinal cord injury and ended up at Shepherd for rehabilitation. And so when we're in that situation, while that person's still in the hospital, once they make that referral to us, we can go ahead and start that pre-planning stage of how can we assist them get back into their career as a farmer and not only get back into the career, but sometimes even just getting back into their house and their daily living, parts of it as well. So obviously, not all the clients who come from Shepherd are in the state of Georgia. So when they do refer somebody who's outside of the state of Georgia, if their state has a project, we make that link to their state project for them. And if their state doesn't have an AgrAbility project, like say Alabama, we've had some clients come that way, we will work with them to a degree. We don't have contractual partners in Alabama necessarily to do a whole lot, but we'll help them understanding those resources and how to navigate those resources in their own state so they can get services after they return home from therapy. So with us today, we've got Travis Davis, and I'm not going to go too deep into introducing him, but I'm going to let him do that for himself. But Travis Davis is a pecan farmer, and he has a spinal cord injury. So Travis was actually at Shepherd Center after his spinal cord injury, and he is what we would consider a beginning farmer and rancher. So in the terms of what USDA considers a beginning farmer is what Travis is under right now. So Travis, I don't think has a camera, but he does have a microphone, so I'm going to let him speak.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Doing well.
Welcome,
Uh,
Travis.
Thanks. Uh, as Mason said, my name's Travis Davis. Recently got into some pecan trees, trying to make a extra buck doing that. My farm consists of roughly 12 acres of pecan trees. I got 84 more going in, hopefully in January, and that should wrap all mine up. The first ones were planted in 2025, and well, before all that, I was a lineman and I worked for the utilities company. But like I say, I got hurt and all that. I was injured getting into my swimming pool here at my house, playing with my son. I don't have a lot of recollections of what happened, and it's just all fuzzy. And then my son, he wasn't, but 6 at the time, so he don't remember a lot, and that's a blessing from the good Lord. Um, the result of my accident was an incomplete C6, C7 spinal cord injury. I was treated at the Shepherd Center in Atlanta. Um, I was there right at 6 months, and I didn't get to do a whole lot of the therapy. I got to do some, but I had a uh, horrendous bed wound or bed sore from my stay at Jacksonville when they was doing all my surgeries and all that, which ended up having to be repaired with a they call it a skin flap, um, which really hindered my therapy because of movement and not being able to do the therapy to its fullest extent because of the wound and the staples and it healing and so on and so forth. Like I say, after my injury, I was unable to return to being a lineman, and I'm currently still working for my employer, but I'm working from home, ordering tools, lining up jobs, just desk jockey, really. um, so that being said, I just wanted to find an additional form of income that I can invest in now and grow a farm. I was drawn to growing pecans because, well, really because a buddy of mine, he's been in it for a little while now, and it's it's worked out good for him. So I thought maybe I might have some of the same luck. I was referred to AgrAbility in spring of 2025. Like I said, by that time I'd already planted. Well, I hadn't planted all my trees. I'd planted some of my trees. Uh, and then once I planted all my trees, I was my eyes were open that there were a lot of tasks that I would need to be able to do that I would need to find solutions for. And one of the main needs was a way to get on and off my tractor. AgrAbility informed me that because I was otherwise employed, I wouldn't qualify for assistance from some of the programs they typically use to assist farmers. That they were able to do was provide me with a tractor mounted lift, which works awesome. Thanks, Mason. Um, like I say, they got me a tractor mounted lift through their assistive technology loan program. The program was no cost to me, just an agreement that if I no longer needed it, I would return it to Georgia AgrAbility for them to repurpose for another farmer or another farm. Uh, the lift was initially installed on May of this year, but the seat that came with it did not work. AgrAbility took the seat back and replaced it with a better style seat that provided more support for me. After testing, we realized it needed to be modified a bit further. After making adjustments, I was able to get back in the tractor in September. I'm pretty sure that's the slide y'all seen of me on the tractor. That the third go around worked great. Being able to get on the tractor was amazing. Um, Great boost to confidence. I still have a long ways to go to complete the farm operation. Future plans require assistance with a way to irrigate. Right now, I'm irrigating with some IBC tanks. One's 275 gallons, and the other is I think right at 300. But I'm using my side by side or my Polaris Ranger to haul the water tanks by each tree and deliver the water that way. But in the future, we're trying to get up the funds to put in some irrigation and make life easier. Um, that's about all I got.
So, thank you, Travis, for coming and talking today. So, Travis represents, we have a variety of types of clients we serve in a variety of circumstances that we work within. So, oftentimes you'll see some of our clients, and John, you saw it personally where we were at, who went through services like vocational rehabilitation. But these different organizations and agencies do have different regulations on who they can serve. And since Travis was still working with his previous employer, they wouldn't be able to provide supports for him to do agriculture because their mission is to help somebody find employment, and they would look at Travis as somebody who has employment. So it wouldn't be a case where we could go to them and get assistance for funding for any type of stuff. So the reason we wanted to bring Travis on was to show these other avenues. This lift was one that had actually been purchased for a client years ago, And when they no longer needed it, they donated it back to our program. And so with items like that, we can take it and repurpose them on the other farms in the future. So like with Travis here, we have another lift that we've used for that same purpose and some other tools and materials that have been donated back to our program or that we've raised funds for separately to put into that program where we can have those items available for people to use. So, thinking back about these past 20 years, John, you've seen some of this already, and some of y'all may be more aware of this. But here in Georgia, we've served, I think our current count is exactly 255. We're going to be actually signing up a few new clients here in the next couple days who just called in recently. But so we've served 255 clients over the 20 years. Now, 255 may not sound like a huge number spread over 20 years, but we have to think about the scope of the clients that we work with and the amount of time it takes. So our average client case isn't just a 1 month, meet them, make the recommendations, then move on. No, our clients will stay with us for years. So each year we typically get about 20 or 30 new clients under our program, and then we usually have about a 70 to 80 active client caseload. So that 70 to 80, those, 50 or so from the previous years will be ones that signed up a year or two before, or it could be somebody from 10 years ago who calls us back and says, hey, this piece of equipment is no longer working, or I've had a change in my condition, or something like that. So at any point in time, an AgrAbility client who we've worked with in the past can always come right back in, right back for services. It's not like, oh, we're closed, we're done with this person. They can always come back for services. So, I mean, right now, I've got clients that I worked with, when I first started this career 10 years ago that I still talk to once a month or so, just catching up with them or just hearing what's going on, or maybe they've had a problem with a gate opener or something like that. So it's not it's definitely someone we stay with them for as long as they're staying in agriculture. And as long as they want to stay at it, we're right here with them for that entirety time. As we mentioned before, the number of families impacted and then the amount of assistive technology that we've had funded for our clients. So this could be through the different organizations we work with, like GVRA or the Brain and Spinal Cord Injury Trust Fund, things like that. But it's over 1.2 million. And this map just really shows the level of reach we have throughout the state. So you can see each one of those green dots represents a client in the state of Georgia. So looking at it, I mean, we've pretty much covered every corner and everywhere in between in the state of Georgia. We not haven't necessarily had a client in every county, but we've had more clients than there are counties in the state of Georgia. And we go anywhere in the state, and we can even kind of bounce over to our neighboring states if they need some assistance. Now I'm going to hand it back over to Kyle.
So when we're working with the client, this is pretty typical across all the AgrAbility programs in the country, but we do things just a little bit differently. But what we do is first and foremost is we're providing those recommendations of assistive technology or adaptations around their farm. So we're going out and we're having a direct site visit with them on location. We're looking at their job task that they're required to do on the farm. We're looking at what changes could be made there to the physical site, to the task itself, or then to equipment that the farmer is using or needs to be using to do that task. And then we're making those recommendations for them. And a lot of times, as with many farmers, there's not a lot of money to go around. And so we help them try and find funding for that assistive technology or those work site modifications that we're recommending. And as Mason mentioned, a lot of the funding agencies that we use to really help implement those for the farmers. And then once that we're getting funding for that assistive technology, we're there with them installing the assistive technology. A lot of the things that we're recommending don't have installers locally, or there may not be any at all. And so we are a lot of times the ones going out there and installing it. And then we are also fabricating a lot of the assistive technology because every client is different. Every client's operation is different. The work task that needs to be done is very unique. And so a lot of times there's not commercially available products that out there that address that type of disability and that type of agricultural operation. So we're going out there and we're designing that piece of assistive technology, and then we're fabricating it in our shop in Tifton where Mason works, and then we're putting it on for them. So our state's a lot more heavy in that than other states are, but it definitely is one of the things that is needed because of just the lack of resources out there available for the farmers. Then one thing that we do a lot as well is when a farmer gets injured and comes to our program, it may not be that they're going to be, may have a permanent disability. Maybe it's a heart attack or something, and there's a downtime on the farm. So uh, stuff, as we all know, can pile up a lot around the farm if you're down for just even a few days. And so we can have volunteer days. We work with local FFA organizations to have the students come out and help complete the task around the farm. And I'll get into that, kind of show you an example of that, what that looks like here in just a minute. But that's just another way that we're really looking at making sure the client is supported throughout their farming careers. Talking about a lot of the adaptations that we've used and that we'll recommend. We like this picture a lot because it shows a lot in one picture. So down in the bottom left-hand corner, you're going to see an all-terrain wheelchair, and those can really be helpful for people who have like a spinal cord injury or knee replacements, mobility issues around a farm. Your typical mobility devices are not going to be able to get you around a farm like you need to. So those all-terrain wheelchairs, the Action Track Chair is one of them, Journeyman Scooter's another, that they'll really take you anywhere you need to go. Farmers are able to work out of those, do gate repairs, fence repairs, work with their livestock. They'll drive, some of them will stand you up and you can drive T-post that way. You have the tractor lift there that's mounted to the side of the tractor to be able to get the farmer from a wheelchair back into the tractor. Sometimes they actually have standing models of that tractor lift. So that way, if the farmer's still able to walk but can't climb stairs, they can go over there to the standing lift and it'll raise them up to the platform of the cab on the tractor. Also, one of the things that we look at a lot for adaptations are rear view cameras on tractors. A lot of our farmers have back injuries or spinal cord injuries, and so looking behind them can be extremely difficult. And other times it's a vision issue. And so the rear view cameras are something that we can do very low cost, put on their tractors and wire them in for them. We've done GPS for farmers to put on their tractors if they have like a stroke and aren't able to control controls on one side of their tractor. The GPS will allow them to be able to guide the tractor in the field, and then they can reach over with their other hand and manipulate the controls that way. And then over on the right hand side on the implement, that is an automatic hitch there. So a lot of times farmers who have a disability are not able to hook and unhook their equipment from their tractors. And they're having to wait on people to come out to their farm to put a different implement on their tractor. And so that can take a lot of time away from being able to get tasks done around the farm. And we know as farmers, it's crucial that we get a task done when we've got the good weather that we need and the season. And so they can actually hook up implements without leaving the seat of their tractor by an electric linear actuator there. And those are examples of like higher cost items, but then where there's a lot of low cost, not as technical items that we're doing out on farms as well. So extended tractor steps you see over on the left-hand side, those are something that we do quite regularly, and we fabricate those ourselves because they are so model specific to the tractors. So that way it reduces that last step on the tractor to really allow the farmer not to have to reach as far, especially after a knee injury or just aging. A lot of times, as that last step gets a little bit harder to get that knee up to. Then we also will build accessibility ramps. It's very important for a farmer to actually be able to get in and out of their house to get ready for the day to go farm. And so we have clients that have an extremely difficult time doing that, whether their ramp they currently have is not safe or they don't have a ramp after an injury. And so we'll go in and we'll build an accessibility ramp up to ADA guidelines. And we also, in the top right corner, you'll see a drive over ramp. So opening gates can be extremely difficult for someone who has to get on and off equipment. They may not be able to get on and off equipment very quickly or easily. And so these drive over ramps just go right in the fence line, and cows will not try and cross them. And so they can drive in and out of their pastures without having to open gates. And then down in the bottom right, you'll see a fence line feeder. And so this keeps the farmer from having to go into the actual pen with the animals and be able to be able to feed the animals without danger of being knocked over at all. I do want to mention we have a mobile learning lab that we actually take the assistive technology across the state for people to be able to see and experience themselves. Um, Mason mentioned our trainings before. We also do a lot of trainings just with the general public on what assistive technology on the farm can be, or training those agricultural professionals. Here, you'll see some extension agents who've been getting trained. So if you have an organization that you would like us to bring a mobile learning lab out to, we'd be glad to do that. We come to agricultural awareness days with this. We'll train or showcase more to the younger kids just what adaptations can be made for them, in the future if they need it, or they may have someone in their household who could use our services. So we go to those ag awareness days a lot as well for the children. So please reach out if you have an event that you'd like our mobile learning lab to come to. We have those all-terrain wheelchairs there for you to be able to try them out and see what a farmer would work out of, different things like that for in that trailer. So, with it being Veterans Day, as Mason mentioned earlier, we do want to take some time to just kind of highlight some of the work that we do with veterans because we have seen such an increase in the number of veterans coming to our program. And a large part of that is due to the USDA putting a big push on making sure veterans are getting into agriculture after leaving the military because they are a good fit for that aging farmer population that's getting out of agriculture, and they have a lot of the same work ethic, the skills needed to be able to be farmers. And I want to highlight one of our farmers who Mason mentioned earlier is on our board. His name's Itigo Felton, and he's a U.S. Army veteran over in Lincolnton, Georgia. And he started a hog farm after getting out of the military. He did a lot of different things in the Army, but the last part was Army recruiter, and but he was also jumping out of airplanes a lot and helicopters. He was a parachuter to begin with, and he got a lot of multiple joint injuries, back injuries, knee injuries, shoulder injuries from that. I started working with him, I believe it was around 2018. And when we got out there to his farming operation in Lincolnton, he was putting in a lot of grunt work to get his daily operation done. And he raised a large amount of hogs. And so feeding those hogs was something that required hours upon hours of his work. And it was the way he had it set up was extremely physically demanding. He was having to go pick up feed from a local feed store to be able to afford it. He was having to get the bulk items and not in bags. And so he did not have a great way to transport it. And so he had to build a trailer that was just a regular uh, utility trailer with some sides that he built out of plywood. He'd put a tarp down and they'd fill up the feed, and he'd have to come home, scoop all the feed out, about 2,000 pounds of feed there, scoop it all out in 5-gallon buckets and then dump it into 55-gallon barrels. And it would take him hours, and for several days he would be hurting afterwards. And I experienced that with him, unloading that feed several times, and it was quite the task. And then having to walk through muddy hog pens to be able to feed them. And so we looked at a lot of different things around his operation, but again was one of those beginning farmers as he got out of the military and really looking to establish his farm. He Over here on the left hand side, you'll see that volunteer day. He actually ended up having the USDA pay for some fencing for him to be able to help with some environmental concerns out there and put in conservation practices. And he ended up having a heart attack, and he was down for several months. And so he was not able to get that fencing done as fast as he needed to meet the USDA deadline. So we got with the local FFA organization, came out there and did the fencing work that he needed done to be able to get it completed by the time the USDA required. And then, as I was mentioning the feed earlier, so here was our first iteration of assisting him with the feed, and we worked with Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency. This was a mobile grain bin that he was then able to drive to the feed store and have them fill it up with bulk feed. and then he would come back and feed it out in 5 gallon buckets. So he wasn't having to store it anymore in the 55 gallon drums. But but as part of our process, we knew that wasn't our end goal with him because that's still a lot of effort picking those up. They're heavy, they're wearing on his shoulders. And so what we did is we wanted a way for him to be able to dispense that out using his tractor. So that way he wasn't having to pick it up manually. And with that was an auger bucket on the front of his tractor. And so that way he can dispense the feed right into this bucket and then drive around the fence lines and pour it into the hog feeders. So with this bucket, it's probably about 3 feet high. And so we had to have a way to get this trailer high enough that his bucket could get under here. And so we built a loading dock essentially here on the farm using telephone poles donated from the local utility service, and came in here and backfilled it all with dirt, so that way he's able to drive up on this ramp here, and then with those mobile grain bins, and then dispense the feed out into the front of the bucket on his tractor. We also worked to get a T-post gas powered T-post driver for him funded, so that way he's not having to drive the T-post himself anymore when there are fencing needs out there on his farm, because hogs tear up fencing a lot. They're extremely destructive animals. Two of those mobile grain bins, like I mentioned earlier, and then that front auger feed bucket, and then those hog feeders you'll see over there on the right. So he's able to use that feed auger on his front end loader of his tractor to dispense the feed into the front or into the top of that hog feeder. And so that way he's not having to manually handle the feed anymore at all. And then electric trailer jacks were something that we put on his livestock trailers and his equipment trailers, so he wasn't having to do those shoulder rotations jacking up and down his trailers. So this is just a image that vocational rehabilitation did showcasing ITGO and the work that they were able to assist him with. And he was mentioning AgrAbility helping him be able to make his dreams come true. And he loves being back on the farm. He grew up on a farm with his grandparents. And so being able to raise hogs again is something that he uh, enjoys doing a lot. And he's also now doing catering. And we were able to have him cater our 20-year event. And it was pretty tasty barbecue. And it was just nice to see how local everything can be when we're able to keep farmers in agriculture. And as Mason mentioned earlier, we have several other programs that we work with um, because directly supporting veterans because of the AgrAbility program and seeing so many veterans come back into agriculture. We saw that there was a major gap in what they knew as they were transitioning back onto the farm or starting a farm to begin with. And so we started a training program called Farm Boot Camp that was really geared at looking at the basics in agriculture and making sure that as we're teaching them the basics in agriculture, that we are doing it in a way that fits their learning style. So it's the universal design for learning is incorporated throughout. So that way they have multiple ways and representations to pick up depending on their learning styles. And so we have the current program, we have beekeeping, we have cattle, mushroom production, and produce production tracks that they can take to learn those four commodities. We also are doing business classes throughout with them, and then general farm safety classes that they're able to attend. And this image is here from one of those days out there at the cattle workshop that we had in Middle Georgia with them. And so with AgrAbility, we have a lot of work that we have to do for our program. Our staff is very limited, and not all of us are even not a single one of us work full time on AgrAbility, but it's our passion program. This is where we get the drive for what we do. And this is where all of us really see the fruits of our labor, being able to keep these farmers farming. And so if you have any questions about our program, we're more than happy to take them at this time. And please let farmers know about us if they need us. A lot of times the farmers don't think they need us. And when they actually do, or sometimes farmers are just a little too stubborn to reach out and ask, but encourage them to seek our services. And we're just happy to work alongside them.
Well, thank you, Kyle and Mason, and a special thanks to Travis. Thank you for sharing your personal experience. It's really all of this is so inspiring. And I want to say that any of you that can share this with other folks in your network, please do, because there's probably so many others out there that could be helped by this program. That it's just something people need to know about, and that's why we're so happy to have it here on our monthly virtual meeting. Um, just before we have questions from the group, I do want to say we are recording this. We will post this on our website, gafarmstress.org. That's gafarmstress.org. We post all of our recordings each month. So hopefully you can access it there within a couple of days this week, but we'll get that going. And again, I just want to thank our presenters. So let's open it up for questions. Shanae, I see your hand raised. That's Shanae Bradley from Fort Valley State, who is one of our great partners, and love working with Shanae and Dr. Lattimore there. And they're going to be hosting our Georgia Farm Stress Summit at the Pettigrew Center there on March 12th of 26. So put that on your calendar. We'll be sending out a save the date here shortly on that, but we'd love to have you join us for the 26th Georgia Farm Stress Summit, completely free of charge. And, please think about attending that on March 12th. Shanae.
Thank you, Dr. McElvin, for the plug. That was great marketing. Can you guys hear me pretty good?
We can, yes.
Great, great. Thank you, Kyle and Mason, for your presentation. I just had a quick question. I've seen, I know we kind of go to some of the same events working in extension, but I was wondering, have y'all ever been on our campus and presented this? I know I believe Dr. Brown may have worked with you guys before, but I just wanted to see, because this would be something I think would be interesting to even just have our agents know about and be able to share with their clients.
I have many years ago.
Okay.
Joshua Dawson invited me to an event.
Ah.
Yeah. So I have, but it's been many years since I've been there for that. And actually, I did a lot of work with FBSU when I worked at USDA as well.
Okay.
Those trials in partnership with them. So I have been to that campus, even then for those programs.
Cool.
It has been a while though, so we would love to get back in front of your agents or people on your campus if that's a possibility. We used to work with the rehabilitation school there that was training rehabilitation counselors at FVSU.
Okay.
So we worked with them for a long time and had interns from FVSU. So that's definitely another connection there.
Okay, well, I wouldn't mind. I mentioned this even to our extension administrator, Dr. Lattimore, and kind of see where we can reconnect and possibly bring the mobile learning lab here for our folks to see. I think it would just be a great, because there are a lot of things we just don't know about. And I'm watching, the presentation, and I'm like, wow, this is impressive. So I'll definitely be in touch to let you know if that's another connection we can kind of start over again. So
yeah, thank you. That'd be great.
Other questions, discussion?
And I'll find your contact online because I was just looking on the AgrAbility website.
All right, perfect.
Kyle, tell it.
John.
Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, so I know that in a situation where a farmer's gotten injured and he can't work, he's immediately going to be dealing with, or she is going to be immediately dealing with some downtime on the farm. And at certain times of the year for certain different commodities, that can be a real tough thing to deal with. So what I'm wondering is, from AgrAbility learning of a particular farmer's incident to delivering a solution or solutions, how long does this process typically take? I'm sure there's not just one answer here, but I'm wondering, just how much time goes by before they're able to get back out there and start working.
Yeah, it really is so client specific and dependent on how long. Sometimes with our veteran clients, there seem to be a lot more veteran resources that we can reach out to. And so that those cases can typically go quicker. Um, Definitely, like if it's an immediate need that we can do more workday stuff, then that can be within a few days to a week that we're able to get out there and start doing volunteer days. So something quick like that. But when it's more of the high cost items that are needed, if we don't have something like that lift that we were able to put on Travis Davis's tractor, it can definitely take a while. If working with those state agencies, 6 months to a couple years is not out of the realm of possibility, just depending on the dollar amount of that piece of assistive technology or pieces of assistive technology. So we've had clients, they get multiple pieces of assistive technology in order to continue operating their farm, and so that can take a long process. So it is really very client specific. Yeah,
All right,
thank you.
thank you. All right, Lindy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I do. First of all, yeah, Mason and Kyle, the work you do is just mind-blowing. It's so exciting. It's like you're just dispensing gifts around the state. It's wonderful. Um, and I'm so excited. I know somebody that runs a big barbecue place. I'm going to let him know about this place out in Lincolnton, just in case he can become a customer. But anyway, um, it'll be really nice if we can get to a place where people begin to understand that their mental health is also part of their disability. And John, something John and I are, working to get to people, because anybody who has disability is going to be depressed. And so that's just a piece that has to be more understood and less stigmatized, so that people can understand that there's no shame in in that part of trying to feel better. So it's just something that we also need to be thinking about. That's all I'm saying. And John's got all kinds of tools in his and I'm working with him with the community resiliency model, but he's also got these other tools that he's also sharing with the agricultural community. So, but I'm thrilled with your efforts throughout the state. So great to meet you.
Yeah, thank you. And we're so fortunate to have been included on those farm stress conversations so early on, because the people were able to see that farmers' identities are tied to their job. And if they're not able to work their job, it can, because of a disability, because of an injury, it can be not only life changing because of a job, but it becomes your whole identity. And that can really impact your mental health, your stress levels. And so, being able to provide them with the resources to be able to continue doing their daily jobs is so critical in helping be able to provide a purpose and a meaning, but on and also an income. But it just goes back to looking at the whole farmer, the healthy farmer mindset, and I think that's something that we're just so thankful for being a part of in all these conversations.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Lindy. Yeah, Lindy is with the Georgia CRIM, or Community Resiliency Model group, and they do amazing work. And just a quick plug: Lindy and I are going to be doing a virtual CRIM training, which is a stress management training. Lasts about an hour and 15 minutes next week on Thursday night at 7 p.m. And we'll be sending out some promotional information about that in the link shortly. And just thank her for her work in helping address people's mental health and stress levels for so many years. She's out of Emory and has done an amazing amount of research on the effectiveness of that. And that, as Lindy said, that's one of the trainings and information sessions that we do. And my colleagues at the Rural Health Innovation Center at Mercer School of Medicine, they've done a billion of those too, and they're so good at it. And I just want to thank Lindy for her cooperation and connecting me to so many people. So, other questions for Kyle, Mason? I don't know if Travis is still with us. He is. If anybody's got any questions for him. I have one for Travis if nobody else is speaking yet. Travis, if you don't mind, I know you mentioned this briefly, but tell us a little bit more about the experience of how you found out about AgrAbility and have you been able to let other people know about it or had that opportunity, anybody that you know that might benefit from it as well. So if you'll tell us a little bit more about that.
The way I found out about it was I inquired about a lift to go on a truck or a trailer to help me get in and out of a vehicle or on a piece of equipment. I can't remember the exact brand. Maybe Mason
Yeah, so
knows.
I think Travis found them online. It was the Life Lifts
Yeah.
company, and they're a manufacturer out of Indiana that manufactures some of the lifts we use. There's basically two manufacturers that we typically use. That's Life Lifts and Coach Lifts, and they're both good products, and they have their different applications depending on the needs. But he had originally contacted Life Lifts, and then Life Lifts actually reached out to us here.
Yeah, so I kind of stumbled upon it just by dumb luck, I guess. But as far as telling people about it, like just people that come to my house or um, friends or whatever, they ask me just standard questions like, "Man, where'd you get that?" or "Who built that?" and all. I tell them, AgrAbility, UGA. Um, but as far as telling many people about it, I thank God I don't know many people that do need it. So that's a blessing because I wouldn't wish this on nobody. Um, and as far as like you're talking about being depressed and stressed and all the other, that plays a huge part in everyday life with what's going on. I know you didn't ask that question, but I was just going to touch on the subject because y'all were on it just a minute or two ago. But yeah, I tell people about it that come around.
And
Yeah,
I'll just
and
go back to Travis does have a track chair as well. And Travis, I don't know if you informed me on how you acquired that or not in the past, but he does have one of those to provide, additional mobility around on the farm. And he still uses his side by side pretty well as well getting around.
Yeah, I drive it with a cane. Yeah,
Well, we're gonna be working on some hand controls, but the side by side might be a little bit more difficult with space, but we will absolutely be putting hand controls in the tractor uh,
yeah,
here in the near future.
yeah, thank you, Travis, for saying that, and thank you for mentioning about the kind of struggle with mental health that does come with this. And as Lindy said, we one of our core sort of efforts is to normalize that conversation about mental health, and just remind people that mental health is health, and we need to be able to access resources that can help us with our health, whatever form that is. And so, just keeping that to ourselves, any kind of health situation and not accessing resources and information available is really one of those things that, things don't always get better when you keep it to yourself. You need help, and there's no, as Lindy said, there's no shame in that. Lindy, you got another comment there?
Yeah, I just want to put a plug in for our song and dance next week. I hope everybody on this program today will tune in because these are simple little things that anybody can do. And the beauty of it is nobody knows you're doing it. And I've been doing teaching these simple little skills for 10 years, and it's as simple as touching the cloth on your shirt or the skin. And I use them when my husband's bothering me. And it grounds me so that I don't get upset back at him. But anyway, so I've been teaching police officers and all, paramedics, and they eat it up. Nobody knows you're doing it, but it's a way of calming yourself so you don't get into trouble. So anyway, I'm just putting in a plug.
Well, thank you for that advertisement, Lindy. Speaking of advertisement, the AgrAbility folks did a great job of promoting their information and work last week at the celebration. Thank you for the water bottle. I am using it, as you can see. Um, but seriously, as Lindy said, these strategies are simple little techniques that are based on awareness and brain science and just, little things that you can do when you think about it when you get in those states. But we need to wrap this up. And because I always promise we're going to get through on time. Um, Kyle and Mason, if you will, just make sure that you continue to share with us things that are going on and things that we can share with other people because your work is so very important and we appreciate you so much. And Bronwyn, I appreciate. I loved your comment there that you needed those strategies to Lindy. So join us next week. Be looking for that information on our Georgia Agricultural Wellness Alliance Facebook page and also on gafarmstress.org. And again, thank you to Kyle, to Mason, to Travis. What you do is amazing, and I appreciate you sharing. You didn't have to do that, and I appreciate it. So thank you for joining us, and hope that you'll join us next month, Tuesday at noon. We're confirming our subject matter for next month still, but we'll be sending out a promo on that next week. It's always the second Tuesday of each month at noon. So thank you, and I appreciate you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.